Well, I tell you what, we got a fully loaded show for you this week. This is the Mediokr Best Sports Podcast with Realistic Randy. Thank you for tuning in. Going to recap the shocking upset of Super Bowl 52 with the Philadelphia Eagles beating the New England Patriots 41-33. Also going to talk about some offseason issues that must be addressed by the Minnesota Vikings heading into 2018 if they're indeed going to be legitimate Super Bowl contenders. And then not only that, but the next segment, going to talk some NBA stuff. Hopefully my Dallas Mavericks can end up with the number 1 or maybe a top 5 draft pick to go after a Trae Young or Marvin Bagley. I don't give a damn at this point. Get somebody, damn it. And then we're going to talk about LeBron James, the drama that's surrounding LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. This seems to be an annual thing with LeBron James-led teams every year. Oh, my God, he needs help, or everything's just falling apart. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But first, I want to get into this Josh McDaniels situation. So a couple of weeks ago, this dude verbally agreed to be the next head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. And to that, I was saying to myself, you know what? You're Josh McDaniels. You're coming from the New England Patriots. You're coming from the regime of Bill Belichick. Certainly you have a plethora of different options to choose from beyond the Indianapolis Colts because let's face it, their owner seems like he doesn't know what the hell he's doing for that franchise. And then not only that, but your franchise quarterback, you don't even know if he's even going to play again in the NFL. You remember last year when they did all the marketing? Oh, he just went through shoulder surgery. No big deal. He'll be back. He'll be just fine. And he never came back in 2017. So who's to say that he's ever going to come back? There's too much uncertainty there. But I'm like, you know what? It's a free country. You can make your own decisions. You're a big boy. Hey, kudos to you, Josh McDaniels. And then on Tuesday, the reports came out that he just straight up changed his mind, just reneged on the whole offer. And the Indianapolis Colts, they put out they put out a schedule to the press saying we're going to announce Josh McDaniels as our head coach. And he hired assistant coaches and was just ready to go. And then all of a sudden, he just straight up changed his mind. And I believe Adam Schefter reported that, well, from one source that, oh, this is the New England Patriots. They want to stick it to the Indianapolis Colts for the Deflategate scandal, which because of them, they blew the whistle, whatever it is you want to call it, on the New England Patriots for allegedly deflating some footballs. And then ultimately that resulted in Tom Brady being suspended for the first 4 games of that following season. And then, you know what? Here's the thing that just kills me with this. Okay. And I saw reports out there that Josh McDaniels, he was promised to be the next head coach of the New England Patriots whenever Bill Belichick decides to leave. Okay, fine. Here's what's killing me about this. Whether it's Robert Kraft orchestrating this whole thing, just stick it to the Colts, go as far as you can. Or whether you just change your mind, because reports also came out that he didn't even notify the assistant coaches that he hired. They're still hired with the Indianapolis Colts. They're still there. They're not going to be working under Josh McDaniels. They're going to have to do some emergency fill-in to find some new head coach. But they're still hired by the Indianapolis Colts. So you didn't let them know. You didn't let the Colts know. And no matter whether this was orchestrated by Robert Kraft or not, if he promised you the next head coaching gig for the New England Patriots after Bill Belichick leave, that's all well and good. How many times have you been promised, whether it's your current employer now or past employers, where they're like, hey, keep up the good work. It's all good. We're going to get you that promotion. There's good things for you in the future, and nothing ever happens. So who's to say that a year from now, because Bill Belichick is reportedly going to be the next, or not the next, he's going to reportedly continue being the New England Patriots head coach heading into next season. And let's say he retires after next year. Who's to say circumstances won't change next year? Maybe there's some hot new commodity in the offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator in the league that suddenly deserves to be the next head coach, where Robert Kraft may decide to change his mind. So the point that I'm getting at is you never burn bridges in business, especially in the public eye. And the fact that you did that, you didn't let your assistant coaches know that you changed your mind. You didn't let the Indianapolis Colts. You look like a puppet. You basically may have just screwed yourself in the future. So we'll just have to see. Oh, and then not only that, but let's say Bill Belichick leaves and Tom Brady retires. Oh, yeah, you get to work with Jimmy Garoppolo moving into the future. The next wave of the next era of the New England Patriots with Jimmy Garoppolo. Oh, wait, you traded him away for a second-round pick. So I guess you're moving forward with what, Brian Hoyer? I don't know. We'll have to see how that all plays out. But moving forward, Super Bowl 52. The Philadelphia Eagles beat the Patriots 41-33. That was one of the most masterful coaching jobs that I've ever seen in a Super Bowl. Doug Peterson deserves all the praise that he's going to get. The offensive and defensive lines of the Philadelphia Eagles had me just full of envy. I wish the Vikings could have done that in the playoffs. They were stout. Man, and here's the thing. The Philadelphia Eagles, they lost Jason Peters, their left tackle. They lost him for basically damn near the entire season, and you would have never noticed in that Super Bowl and in the NFC Championship game for that matter. So kudos to them. They did a good job. Nick Foles, hey, he's proven more, especially in that Super Bowl. I was saying to myself in the NFC Championship game when he went off on us for 38 points, I was saying to myself, you know what? It's the Minnesota Vikings. They always fall apart in big moments in the playoffs. No big deal. He's not going to be able to get away with that against Bill Belichick, baby. But he did, and he did a masterful job. You know what? Whatever type of contract he gets in the future, because he's still technically under contract with the Eagles heading into next year, so you may keep him as an insurance policy to Carson Wentz as he rehabs from his torn ACL. But whatever type of contract he gets, kudos to him. Jeff Fisher is looking worse and worse by the day as all of his previous quarterbacks are just kicking ass out there. So anyway, Doug Peterson, he did a good job. The offensive and defensive lines did a good job. Nick Foles did an outstanding job. Fletcher Cox, after the Super Bowl, was quoted as saying, "I think we own the state of Minnesota now." And you know, it's crazy. At first, I was bitter, not off of that quote, but just the fact that the Eagles won. I didn't really have an interest in this game. I made a post on Facebook saying, hey, you know, I'll take the Patriots in a close game by 3 points or less. But you know what? I was a little bit bitter because I'm seeing all these advertisements for the Super Bowl all week long, and you're seeing Tom Brady, and then you see Nick Foles' face up there with shades of purple. That was the color scheme for the Super Bowl ads all across the NFL. Just purple everywhere, and I'm like, damn it, that's supposed to be us. But you know what? I quickly realized I can't hate on the Philadelphia Eagles. I can't hate on Fletcher Cox saying that we own the state of Minnesota, because in terms of football, they do. The Philadelphia Eagles absolutely do. And if they beat the Vikings in the NFC Championship game by like a close margin, like, I don't know, like a touchdown, maybe a touchdown, I'd be like, you know what, dude, chill out. It was a close game. You won. Yes, you won in our house in the Super Bowl, but you didn't necessarily roll through us. They whooped our asses straight up and then won the Super Bowl in Minneapolis. So in terms of football, they absolutely own the state of Minnesota. And don't be mad at me. Don't be mad at Fletcher Cox. Don't be mad at the Philadelphia Eagles. Be mad at the Vikings. Show some heart. Show some fight. And I don't want to hear nothing about in 2018, because I'm pulling up the schedule up right now. And for 2018, we are going against the Philadelphia Eagles on the road, along with the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Patriots. And then at home, we're hosting the surging San Francisco 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo, who's been undefeated in his NFL career at this point, and Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints, assuming Drew Brees go back to the Saints. They'll be playing them at home. But I don't want to hear nothing about that, whatever. Let's a week 2 game against the Philadelphia Eagles, or who knows, it may be the home opener. Maybe the season opener next year on the road at Lincoln Financial Field. But I don't want to hear a revenge game. This is not no damn revenge game. Beat them in the playoffs, or let's say this is a week 15, 16, 17 game, and this determines who goes into the playoffs, either the Vikings or the Eagles, then yes, that's a revenge game. But some week 5 game, oh, this is a revenge game. No, the hell it's not. Beat them in the playoffs, beat them in a pivotal moment that has a lot of weight on it in the season, preferably late in the regular season, but more likely than not, you're going to play them early in the season. But beat them in the playoffs, or beat them in a game that actually matters, okay? Beat them. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. So then moving forward from there, so we just look at the schedule, some offseason issues that must be addressed by the Minnesota Vikings heading into 2018. Number one on my list, and look, this is the top of my priority, number one, and then everything after that, it's in no necessarily particular order. Actually, no, that's a lie. Number 1 and number 2 is in particular orders, ranked 1 through 2, and then after that, no particular order from there. So number 1 on my list is offensive coordinator. We've seen the difference of having Norv Turner and Pat Shurmur. You can't just bring anybody in and expect the offense to thrive. Norv Turner was the classic example of, you know what, this is my system, and 7-step dropbacks. I don't care if you have the worst offensive line in football. This is what we're going to do. And it may not necessarily be for the benefit of the team. And then you have Pat Shurmur, who he may have his system, but he also develops system based on the personnel that he has. For instance, Doug Peterson, right? Carson Wentz went down, and instead of saying, you know what, we're going to just do what we did all year with Carson Wentz with Nick Foles, and it'll be great, it'll be fantastic. No, they developed an offensive scheme that works for Nick Foles, such as that Philly miracle play or Philly, whatever they called it, where Nick Foles caught that Super Bowl touchdown pass. That was from his high school days, reportedly, from his high school days that he did that. So Doug Peterson developed schemes. Pat Shurmur did the same thing with Case Keenum. He could have said, you know what, we're just going to do what we did with Sam Bradford, just have him just sit in the pocket, no big deal. But he developed an offensive scheme that worked around Case Keenum, and he did a very good job, at least up to the playoffs, or at least up into the NFC Championship game that Pat Shurmur did. But you need an offensive coordinator that comes in here, and you may have a system, but you may have to adjust. You may have to do something that revolve your game, your scheme around players that you may not have anticipated, such as your quarterback goes down. You need to have some flexibility. And it looks like that the Minnesota Vikings, they're waiting to interview Eagles quarterback coach John DeFilippo. I'm going to have fun saying this dude's name if he gets hired by the Minnesota Vikings. John DeFilippo. And they're waiting to interview him, quarterback coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. And you know what? Maybe he's the guy. Maybe he's not. I have no idea. But I can tell you one thing. If you're telling me this is a guy that's going to bring on some of those innovative ideas and some of those innovative philosophies that they had with the Philadelphia Eagles under the stewardship of Doug Peterson, I'm all for it. Hey, let's see what the dude got. Or if you see someone else better out there, no matter who it is that you hire, it needs to be the right hire for this team. This team has the talent. Dalvin Cook was out basically the whole damn year. He's going to be coming back. This team has the talent to be more than just a very efficient offense. This offense was pretty good last year, but they have the talent to be even more than that, depending on who you bring in at quarterback, which brings up the number 2 point. The quarterback position. I'll save that after I go through the other 3, but I wanted to say, after the number 1 and 2, after that, it's in no particular order. But quarterback is the next important step. But after that, we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But after that, in no particular order, offensive line depth. Now, this offensive line did a very good job. They were night and day compared to 2016. Rick Spielman did a great job bringing in Riley Reiff, Mike Remmers. You drafted Pat Elflein. Joe Berger may retire. Nick Easton went down towards the end of the season, or if not the end of the season, and they were doing some shuffling, and that's where it got a little bit jacked up because Mike Remmers went from right tackle to, I believe, left guard, and it was just a mess after that. So you need to add offensive line depth primarily through the draft. I think Rick Spielman has learned his lesson from the last several years. We just completely ignored it. I think he's learned his lesson, so we need to add depth just in case anybody goes down. We know this is a sport of football. Dudes are going to go down, so we need to add depth. Then not only that, on defense, I just have one particular point that I'm looking at on defense. And look, I get it. The NFC Championship game, everybody was awful, okay? Look, I'm not going to single anyone out. Everybody was collectively awful. You can't just say, this person was terrible, and then ignore. Harrison Smith looked like a bum out there. Xavier Rhodes was a scrub out there in that NFC Championship game. But we know they're better than that, okay? But one particular thing that I'm looking for on defense heading into next year is more consistency from Danielle Hunter. This was the first year that Danielle Hunter was a starting edge rusher for this Vikings team. You remember a couple of years before that, he came in as a part-time edge rusher, and he did a damn good job. Now as a starting edge rusher, I believe on the left end, he didn't really pop out this year that I thought he would. He didn't really have that breakout year as a starting edge rusher, and maybe he's just going through growing pains. But I'd like to see more consistency from him, so we're not just relying on Everson Griffin to come in off the right edge every single time. I want to see Danielle Hunter close out some of those pass rush situations, whether it's hitting the quarterback, forcing fumbles, sacks, whatever it is you got to do, forcing the quarterback into bad throws, whatever it is. I don't necessarily want to say, well, as long as Everson Griffin shows up, we'll be fine. I want to see consistency from Danielle Hunter. And then not only that, we're going to go into the quarterback situation as promised. But real quick,
I'm Jay.
And I'm Matt of the hashtag NFZ, aka No Fly Zone, now officially part of the BGC Sports Network.
You can also find the show on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/ spell it out, hashtag NFZ and the Apple Podcast app.
Now, let's kick it back over to Realistic Randy and the Mediocre at Best Sports Podcast.
So I'm just going to keep this very simple. The quarterbacks that I'm looking for as far as actual options for 2018, legitimate options as far as starting quarterbacks, if you're thinking about trying to win a Super Bowl or at least give you the best opportunities at the quarterback options out there heading into 2018, I've only got two options. That's Kirk Cousins and Teddy Bridgewater. The only way that case can, for me, if I'm making the decisions, obviously I'm not, but this is just me talking. I'm just some dude with an opinion. But the only way that, for me, Case Keenum is on this roster is if he's competing with Teddy Bridgewater for his starting job. That's it. There is no Case Keenum. He's the outright starting quarterback. We're going to sign this dude to a 3-year deal, and there's nothing else to talk about. I know there's a legion. I call the legion of Vikings fans or Case Keenum apologists out there. Not all Vikings fans, but those Vikings fans that are Case Keenum apologists, I call them the Case Brigade. I know the Case Brigade, they're going to be out there live and well, baby. Oh, he earned the job, and look what he did. And you know what? Look, Case did a very good job under Pat Shurmur. Very good offensive line with the best receiving duo, in my opinion, since Larry Fitzgerald and Anquan Bolden. But that's a whole, you know what, whatever it is, you can compare them or not. That's a whole nother topic discussion for another day. But he's had a very, very good supporting cast around him, okay? We've seen Case Keenum up to this point before this year when circumstances weren't great and he wasn't that good, okay? Let's just call it what it is. Kirk Cousins, to me, should be the number one option because of health, because he's been durable for all of his career. The dude has thrown for over 4,000 yards since being the full-time starting quarterback for the last 3 years. Has thrown over 4,000 yards in the last 3 years, nearly 5,000 in 2016. Last year, he finished 5th in total deep pass completions of 20 yards or more. This dude is a bona fide, legitimate quarterback, okay? I believe he's a top 10 to 12 quarterback in the league based on his production. He's never had a surrounding cast supporting around him that's going to prop him up. Look, to be able to do all of that despite having what I've got here, what do we have here? Despite getting sacked 41 times, 5th most in the league, behind the 24th ranked pass protecting offensive line according to Football Outsiders, and having mediocre receivers. And then not only that, but your defense isn't all that great either. To still be able to do that, that is some fantastic stuff. So I believe if you put Kirk Cousins with this supporting cast, with the offensive line, who's a lot better than the Washington Redskins offensive line, with this defense, it may not be the number one ranked defense as it was last year, but it should still be a top 5 defense in my humble opinion. And then with the receivers, he's never had receivers like Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen. I mean, if you put him with this supporting cast and this coaching staff, then not only that, the Washington Redskins, and look, 2 out of the 3 years that Kirk Cousins has been the full-time starting quarterback, so that was 2015, 2016, and 2017. 2 out of those 3 years, the Washington Redskins averaged less than 4 yards per carry on the rushing attack. Right? So he's never had that supporting cast, and to be able to do that despite all of that is just outstanding stuff. If Teddy Bridgewater was completely healthy, like if he never went through that injury, this would be nothing to talk about. It would be Teddy Bridgewater. But in my opinion, you have to at least give Kirk Cousins a phone call. You have to. And look, yes, Drew Brees, he's a free agent too, but he also said that he's going back to New Orleans. So I'm just assuming he's going back. But if Teddy Bridgewater, if he was completely healthy, never went through that injury, we wouldn't be having this discussion. I believe Teddy Bridgewater does have a lot of upside. So if Kirk Cousins does reject you and you're left with choosing between Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Bradford, and Case Keenum, it's Teddy Bridgewater, and then Sam Bradford as a backup as an insurance policy, I'd bring him along as well. But Case Keenum, some team is going to come in and say, look, we'll take you on for 3 years, $20 million a year, and then let them do that. That's all well and good. Case Keenum is not a scrub. I'm not going to disrespect him. But my question to everyone out there, because I brought up a couple of points here. Some Vikings fans are talking about the cost, right? The cost of a guy like Kirk Cousins. Well, he's going to command a lot of money, and we can't afford that. That is just outrageous. Well, here's the deal, right? Just like in basketball, where they're giving out max contracts to dudes that may not necessarily be max contract type players like Harrison Barnes or Andrew Wiggins or anybody like that, the market has determined that based on giving guys like that contracts, the guys that are better than them absolutely deserve it. So teams like the Chicago Bears that signed Mike Glennon for what they pay him last year, like $18 million a year. Or the Houston Texans that signed Brock Osweiler for, what, $17 million that 1 year? Look, it is just absolutely ridiculous. So because of that, because of idiot teams like that sign scrub players like that, there's no way you can tell me that you can't tell me that Kirk Cousins isn't worth that type of contract whatsoever. As far as $25 million or $30 million, he definitely deserves that because that's what the market has set. He's been a top 10 quarterback, top 10 to 12 quarterback the last 3 years in terms of production. He absolutely deserves that money. Whether you believe he's he's not elite. Well, damn it. Oh, he's not Tom Brady. He's not Drew Brees. He's not Aaron Rodgers. Well, who is? Okay, Nick Foles just won the Super Bowl. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl. Eli Manning twice. Peyton Manning on his last legs won a Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos. This whole idea that Tom Brady just lost to Nick Foles. Okay, football is the ultimate team sport. You need coaching. You need everything else to basically gel and put the best team out there. Okay, let's not get it twisted. Just because there's only one Aaron Rodgers in the world that can mask all your deficiencies. Okay. So if we're operating like that, we'll never. Look, here's the thing. If you want a quarterback, whether it's Sam Bradford, if he was fully healthy, or Teddy Bridgewater, Kirk Cousins, or Case Keenum, whoever it is that you want, whoever it is that you feel like should be the quarterback of the future for the Minnesota Vikings, and they produce well, you're going to have to pay them that type of money. You can't escape it. I get it as Vikings fans. We've never been in this situation before because we're used to crappy quarterbacks, so we're not used to paying a bleep ton of money to a quarterback. But a guy like Kirk Cousins absolutely deserves that. Then not only that, I saw the other point made, and by the way, I wrote about this too on the Viking Age. Possibly a news alert, not even possibly. I should have probably brought this up earlier. News alert, I am now a contributor for the Viking Age, a fan-sided, so I'll be writing all things Vikings on the Viking Age. But I wrote about this in an article. You can check it out on there. But I saw that Vikings fans were also talking about, and not only that, but also media members will talk about, it restricts your possibilities of signing future free agents. And that is very true, okay? When you're signing a quarterback, the Seattle Seahawks, they had the Legion of Boom. Then they finally signed Russell Wilson to that contract, that big contract that he got. And then you had to let go of certain players. You can't keep everybody. I get that, okay? But here's what I'm going to say about that. Are you going to lose some people that you want to keep? Yes. Is it going to restrict players from signing all the players that you want? Is it going to be impossible to keep this very team that we have outside of quarterback moving forward into the future if we sign a Kirk Cousins to a long-term deal? Yes, it's going to be impossible. But here's the deal. Out of the pending free agents, the future free agents that we have pending, the only two guys that I feel that you must absolutely keep no matter what the cost is Stephon Diggs and Eric Kendricks. When it comes to Stephon Diggs, when it comes to wide receiver, I've been of the mindset that you can find receivers anywhere. Receivers, they grow on trees. They come a dime a dozen. Stephon Diggs was what, a 5th round draft pick? I'm like, you can get a receiver anywhere. But the fact of the matter is, there's a difference between receivers, which I said you can get anywhere. It doesn't matter. All you got to do is run routes and catch the ball. You can find them anywhere in the draft. Laquan Treadwell can't seem to do that, but it's a whole nother conversation, but a different day. But Stephon Diggs is in that next tier of being able to, you throw the ball up, and he's going to come down with it. I don't know. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe Pro Football Focus had this where Stephon Diggs was either the best or top 3, certainly top 3 as far as receivers, as far as catching the ball with highly contested defensive backs around you. So being able to catch the ball in contested situations. Stephon Diggs is one of the best at that. Stephon Diggs is one of those receivers just like Adam Thielen, DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, Randy Moss of old, that can bail out a bad quarterback. How many throws have we seen by Case Keenum where we're like, oh, dude, are you serious? You threw that? And then Adam Thielen or Stephon Diggs would just simply save him and come down with it. Harping back to that NFC championship game, the divisional round against the Saints, right? That play, one of the plays before the Kai Forbath field goal with less than 2 minutes left to take the lead going into before the Saints ultimately scored another field goal before needing to score that miracle play. Case Keenum threw up a duck of a pass where I was like, oh, my God, what are you doing, dude? And Adam Thielen just came down with it, which set up that Kai Forbath field goal. So Stephon Diggs is in that same tier. You cannot let him go upon any reason. Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, to me, are the best receiving duo, in my opinion, since Anquan Bolden and Larry Fitzgerald. They are both capable of getting 1,000 yards each as long as Stephon Diggs can stay healthy. Then not only that, but if you're talking about, if I have to choose between, if I can keep Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr, great, have at it. But if I have to choose between Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr, I mean, come on, this isn't even a tough decision, okay? Eric Kendricks, I'm keeping him no matter what. He is number one on my priority list when it comes to the linebacker situation because he's one of the best coverage linebackers in the NFL. He's a versatile all-around running back in the NFL, or running back linebacker in the NFL, and he's a very consistent linebacker. He's basically almost like one of the captains on that defense, if you will. Whereas Anthony Barr, he can have flashes of brilliance. I mentioned on my article, goodness gracious, I wrote it a week and a half ago. I forgot the title of it. What's the article where I mentioned that they should go after Kirk Cousins? And I said, hey, you're going to have to let some guys go, and that includes Anthony Barr if you have to. Anthony Barr one day will look like Jason Taylor, and the next you forget he's on the field. He's been way too inconsistent the last couple of years. And you know what? If he's talking about I deserve this contract, and look, if you lose Anthony Barr or if you lose Trey Waynes, I like to keep Danielle Hunter. That's just me. But if you have to lose any of those guys on defense, I trust Mike Zimmer. You trust Mike Zimmer if you're a Vikings fan, right? He turned his defense into what it is before Mike Zimmer got here to what it is now. It's like night and day. I trust Mike Zimmer to be able to not only identify his kind of guys that he can work with through the draft or free agency, but to harness their talent and to be able to get the best out of them, specifically on defense. Andrew Sendejo was once thought of as a liability on defense, and now he's one of the better players on our defense. He's been a low-key captain for this defense, a low-key defensive MVP, especially in pass coverage. I trust Mike Zimmer to be able to replace those guys. So Stephon Diggs, Eric Kendricks, after that, it's whatever. I trust Mike Zimmer. So we'll leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts. If you think I'm out of my mind, Case Keenum should be the quarterback, whatever. Go ahead and tell me. Up next, we're going to talk about some NBA stuff. LeBron James and the Cavs. The Dallas Mavericks, hopefully they can end up with a lottery pick. Mediocre Best Sports Podcast with realistic
in the world you cannot run from. Yeah, because hurt people, not hard to love people. So